Hello there. Are you sure you're in the right place? See the name on the door? This podcast is Spine Chillers and Serial Killers. Surely you don't want to come in here. You do. Well, I must warn you that things are pretty adult in here. Absolutely no children are allowed. Obscene language, shocking and horrendous stories to chill you to your core, and terrifying tales that'll keep you up at night. The ladies inside aren't quite right. Lovely and hilarious, but very strange. Still want in, do you? Well, you'll get what you're here for. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome back to Spine Chillers and Serial Killers. I'm Becky.
I'm Tash.
And I'm Emma. Hello.
Hi.
Buongiorno.
Oh, that was sexy.
I am a sexy lady.
You're a sexy lady.
Buenos días.
Buenas noches.
Por favor. ¿Por qué?
¿Dónde está la carne? I'm sure we've done this before.
Where's the meat? That's all I ever want to know.
I'm a vegetarian, so I don't even know why I know how to ask that.
Ben tells us differently.
No, Ben's vegan, but I do love a bit of vegan sausage.
All vegans eat some meat, eh, babe?
Serious question now.
Yeah.
Do vegans swallow cum? Because obviously...
Did you have to say that when I had a mouthful of tea? And I was like...
I know a human isn't an animal, but it is sort of a byproduct of a meat source, if you're into cannibalism.
Oh, a sperm is a byproduct of a meat source.
I don't know.
Oh, no.
I'm a vegetarian.
Okay.
But if we're, taking your question seriously...
Yeah, it was a serious one.
Yeah, I could tell.
Yeah.
It's not causing any cruelty to any other living human, so I would imagine it was vegan.
Yeah.
Fair
living creature, because that's the whole thing with veganism, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay.
We weren't taking the piss, it was just a genuine question, but then we giggled because we're 12-year-olds.
It was not a genuine question.
Was I?
Tash just wanted to know if I swallowed cum. That's literally what she wanted to know. Oh, God.
Don't know why I did that. Let's move on. Quick.
Okay. What an intro.
Oh,
No,
my.
you're not keeping that in, are you?
Yeah.
Sometimes I panic myself. Right, anyway. How's everyone?
I'm fine. How
Yeah,
are you?
good.
Yeah,
good.
me too. Nice, yeah.
Been out in the garden like a grandma. Nice.
Tash, yeah, let's just move on quick. Yeah, nice. Very, very good, very good.
Yeah.
I was in the bath earlier, bathing.
Naked.
I was indeed naked, washing my hair.
I always think, so sorry, I'm going to just quickly interject here.
Okay.
It's such an awkward thing to say, isn't it? I was in the bath because, it does imply that you were naked, and I don't know why. Sometimes I start a story of, I was in the shower or I was in the bath, and then I think, oh, now they know that I was naked.
Well, I hope you are. I don't sleep, bathe in your bikini.
No, I know, but then do people imagine you naked? I'm not now imagining you naked, but I wonder.
There's your answer. If you started a story going, I was in the shower, I wouldn't be like, Tasha's boobs, Tasha's bum, Tasha's lovely waxed vagina.
Extremely naked.
Fair enough.
Funnily enough, I was watching YouTube and I came across a cheapskate video, and this guy showers with his clothes on so he doesn't have to use the washing machine. So he washes himself and his clothes at the same time.
So what happens now if people are imagining that I'm a cheapskate, and whenever I start a story about I was in the shower or I was in the bath, they think she actually was in her clothes because she's a cheapskate? Oh, my God. The possibilities of what people are imagining are endless. Anyway, back to your story.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I was listening to our very early episodes, and it was so weird because I don't cringe anymore when I hear us or see us on video, but listening to those first episodes, I was like dying on the inside. I was just like, stop talking, shut up, just shut up. It's cringing so hard. I don't know, but I just found it mortifying. Our earlier episodes, God, shall we burn them? Well, I feel like we should burn them.
I think the first 5 should be archived and be like, we'll just put it on as bonus for when we eventually make a Patreon.
Yeah. Oh, that's not... Yeah, so it's instant with Tash.
Yeah.
I like the way you think.
Because I do find that we came in... It just completed the little package of spine chillers and serial killers.
Thanks, guys. Thanks.
Oh. Well, we'll do that. I'll do that. And anybody listening who's gone through our entire catalogue...
Well done.
You're very privileged because you'll never hear those episodes again.
Yeah.
Gone forever.
I remember especially the first 2, I was like, all the way through, like cringing my way through it. I'm just like, everyone's going to hear this. Whereas now I completely forget that other people are going to hear what we're going to say.
Oh yeah, completely.
I mean, we literally never remember, do we, when we talk about like...
No. And then when you send us, like a week after we've recorded, you send us the episode to listen to.
Yeah.
And I've completely forgotten half of what we've said.
Yeah.
I literally forget everything.
Yeah. Okay, correction corner. Last week on your That's Gross, Tash.
Yeah.
Do you remember the guy who was picking his feet and then smelling it and then...
girls, we've just discussed that I remember nothing.
Okay, so you were
I remember
talking...
the picking of feet.
You were talking about a guy who would pick out like all the fluff and crud from under his toenails and smell it and then eat it. And
Looking through.
No, you definitely did.
Okay, yeah.
I chirped in, oh, that's not too bad, I do that. But I hadn't fully listened to what you said. So to be clear, I don't eat my own toenail fluff.
Well, we really disgusted at you when you said that.
You were like, what?
I don't remember him saying that he ate it.
Yeah,
I only remember saying that he smelled it. So I didn't listen to the whole thing.
So, yeah, to be clear, it's not going in my mouth. I might be a minger and give it a bit of a smell, but I'm not tasting it.
Bit of a whiff. No, I didn't hear. I think I must have been too grossed out that my ears closed.
Yeah, but it's weird because when I was editing, I was like, oh my God, I didn't hear that bit. I don't do that. Jesus.
Should have put a little disclaimer in, like, by the way.
I don't eat it.
I don't do that.
I don't eat it.
Oh, no.
We had a review. Would you like to hear it?
Yeah.
Yay.
That's all I want to hear.
It's review time.
So this is from the United Kingdom, and it's from Jacko Katie. So thank you very much, Jacko Katie. We have a 5-star review.
Thank you. We appreciate you.
Been binging for almost 2 weeks, almost caught up, and will hate to have to wait for the next. But on the plus side, I won't be looking like a weirdo laughing to myself with my AirPods in random places.
Oh, that's cute.
I do that with other podcasts. I'm so happy that other people do it for us.
Yeah, me too. Also, UK, be like Jacko Katie and go and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, please, because for some reason we're only 4.6 in the UK, whereas in America we're 4.9.
Do you remember when there was this weird thing going around on Facebook where you'd do a meme and it would be more Bob or be more blah, blah, blah?
Yeah.
So be more Jack and leave us a review.
Jacko Katie.
Yeah.
Be more Jacko Katie. Please. Yes, please do. Only a positive one, though. Don't go bringing that 4.6 down, because I'll have you.
Yeah. Should be at your door. Toe jam in hand.
Eat it! You eat it! And Tash, we had a request. Do you know when you do something on the podcast and you're like, this would be hilarious, let's ask everybody to ask us to do silly accents.
Yeah.
And then you realise, what an error. What a mistake.
But
we've got to see it through now. So
I've got to try. So
Tasha's had somebody request on our Facebook page that she reads this comment out as an angry capybara.
Good luck, Tash.
I always love it. Listening to you ladies feels like wine with the girls. And I'm still adjusting to the fortnightly releases. And I found myself checking daily if there's a new episode.
Why is it still a pirate?
No, it's Argentinian.
It was a capybara. It was an Argentinian capybara, actually.
We looked it up when you were late, by the way.
Yeah. I was breaking my daughter's headphones.
Flappy ear.
Yeah.
She has got a flappy ear. But yeah, we looked it up. She was practicing the Argentinian.
Yeah. I put passion in it and everything.
That was really good.
If you could get over and review that, and 5 stars, please, on Spotify, as promised.
Yeah, it was Helen. I think that was Helen.
Oh, I think I did a really good job.
I think you did. I think you nailed it. I'll have to post a video of the facial expressions because it was awesome.
Yeah, 'cause very angry.
He was very angry.
Was an angry capybara.
Yeah,
And there was arm waving. Everything was there.
Capybaras are very, very passionate.
Yeah,
So,
I think you should go and have a cool off in the
bath.
Is it mud bath?
in some like water. Yeah.
In a lake, in some water.
Yep, in the Amazon.
Look at you with your knowledge.
I hope it was right.
Let's just pretend it is. Anyway, darling, have you got a little gross segment for us?
Ew, that's disgusting. Yeah, I have.
Shall I put the jingle on and see if...
Yeah, we like to listen to the jingle.
Yeah.
I'll put the jingle on then.
Thank you. This is so gross.
Oh.
Oh. Oh, I feel really sick. That's a no from me. It's disgusting. Oh. Thank you so much for that jingle. So, following on from last week's disgusting thing men do, we're still on that train. But I assure you, after these few that I've got, we will do disgusting things that women do. Fair's fair. So, I started seeing someone and we were eating at his house. He pulled out a container of whipped cream from the fridge. And the sides were clearly green with mould.
Oh, no.
He then whipped his finger around the container and licked the mouldy whipped cream off his finger. I broke up with him the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would too.
No,
That's gross, isn't it?
That is gross.
How could you kiss that
Also,
man?
like a biohazard.
Yeah. Have you not
100%.
heard? Can't you die from if you leave pasta out and don't refrigerate it and then I'll think, oh, I'll put it in the fridge now and then reheat it? Can't you die from that?
Yeah, because
It releases toxins, doesn't it?
I mean, die seems harsh.
But there is certain, you can get really bad food poisoning. There's certain foods that are more susceptible to food poisoning, like rice
and pasta.
Pasta's not a great one.
You've just got to reheat it like hot. That's all.
Yeah. But also you do need to refrigerate it
Yeah.
at the right
Keep it
amount of
below
time.
5 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's gross. Don't blame that person for dumping them. I once knew a guy who smoked cigarettes, which, to be honest, is gross enough.
All right.
And
Judgy.
then he'd eat the butt of the cigarette.
That's disgusting. Oh
That's
my
just,
God.
How does that happen?
No. Surely he was doing that as like a
Banter.
prank or something. Yeah. Like, because he knew it wound her up.
If you do it enough, what it create a blockage?
Don't know if it's digestible. I've never done it.
Isn't that where all the toxins, some of them get caught in the filter.
Well, most of them. That's what you're sucking it all through.
It's gross.
I can't believe that's something he did. Like, every time he had a cigarette, he ate
If
the
you
butt.
saw them do that, Oh, it was just a guy, so it wasn't someone she was dating, but it's still bloody weird.
It is weird.
So weird. It's a bit like that thing, like lads do it as banter. I reckon it was one of those like jokes.
Yeah.
And he's just got known for that.
Yeah, maybe.
Anyway, it's still gross.
Absolutely gross.
Next one. If my boyfriend pulls a stray hair out of his beard, he'll sometimes stick it on the tip of his tongue and kiss me so that he can sneak it in my mouth. It's the grossest thing anyone has ever done to me.
I think that's funny. I think he's doing that to be funny.
I don't think it's the grossest thing, but...
I don't think he's doing that, like... It's not on the same level as somebody picking their nose and collecting their bogies on their Xbox controller,
or even
picking
the nose, putting a bogey in the mouth and then kissing you. That would be gross.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, that's
I think
really
he's probably doing that just to be a little shit.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's funny.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, not gross.
But she found it gross, and that's valid.
She has feelings
Her
too.
opinion is valid, we validate how she felt. My ex's favourite meal was a concoction of SpaghettiOs, canned tuna, and milk.
Milk?
I was with him until the milk.
So I was going to say that it'd just be like tuna pasta. And then he's...
No, SpaghettiOs is like tinned spaghetti in tomato sauce. It's like baked beans, but pasta.
Yeah, but you can do like a tuna bake, and that has tomato paste in it. Tomato tuna is all right. It's okay.
Okay, fine.
But milk? What, like fucking cereal? Tuna cereal?
Fucking weird, mate.
Tuna cereal.
It's fucking weird. I'd have to leave someone for that.
For me, it would be how he ate it, if I'm honest. If he then sat there and slurped it, I'd be like,
you
fuck
could
no.
only slurp that.
No, well, I couldn't be doing with any slurping. No. Slurping tuna, no thanks.
Like, is he like breaking up the tuna, or is it like chunky bits of tuna? Oh, there's too many questions. It's fucking gross.
And is the milk, is it like hot and then he's putting cold milk on it?
Yeah, is it heating up the spaghetti hoops? Like, what's going on here?
I feel like we don't have enough information to form
We'll never know, because this is just some random thing off the internet. But anyway, for some reason, my husband refuses to flush the toilet when he's done pooing.
That's disgusting.
It's not that he forgets. He just loves not doing it.
He just forgets to flush the toilet?
No, he doesn't forget.
He doesn't forget. I think he just likes to be annoying. It's a bit like when blokes send each other pictures of their massive shits to each other. It's fucking weird, isn't it?
But that's the sort of thing that I'd, eventually break up the marriage, because I ain't flushing everyone's shit for the rest of my life.
It's fucking gross, isn't it?
Fuck
It's enough you've got to
that.
scrub it off the toilet, isn't it?
Oh, God.
Right. It's my turn to start, and buckle your seatbelts, ladies, because, this is long.
Why did we both do that?
I'm getting comfy.
They literally both just mimed buckling their seatbelts. And this is why I love them so much. They did it in sync as well.
Did we both go to the same side?
I don't think you did. No, you didn't. Opposite sides.
That's sad.
That's because we're sat next to each other. One of us is in the middle.
Yeah. But this is a long story.
I'm going to sit back.
Okay. It's a Russian story, so it's got lots of Russian names. So I'm
This is going to be fun.
Oh God, so many bloopers on this, because I'm going to try my best, and if I get it wrong, it's honestly not to be disrespectful or anything like that. Obviously, it's just I don't know how to pronounce Russian names.
I can't wait for all these Russian names that pronounce with a French accent.
Yeah, it is. I'm just going to go straight to a French accent.
If you don't get anyone called Natasha right, I will be annoyed.
There isn't anybody called Natasha.
Can you change it out and put Natasha in?
No.
Oh, Tasha's upset.
Do you want to do the capybara again? I feel like you'd incarnate it better now.
No. I just want to hear this really great story about Russians.
Okay.
Yeah, without any Natashas.
Have you heard, and I've already established with Tash while we were waiting for you while you were late, by the way.
She was late.
She was so late.
She's always
Who
late.
was late? Me?
You?
No, it wasn't.
So Tash hasn't heard of this story. Have you heard of the Dyatlov?
Don't ask me if I've heard, because every time you say it, I'm like, bird, bird, bird. bird is the word. If you say, have you heard?
Have you heard?
That everybody knows that the bird is the word.
Bird, bird, bird.
And the bird, bird, bird. Ooh, meow, meow, meow. And then ooh, meow, meow. That's going to be in my head. No.
Have you heard of the Dyatlov Pass incident?
No.
Good.
Oh, yes.
No.
Oh, yes, she has.
Possibly. I don't really know.
Well, you won't have known all the details anyway. Here we go.
I'm going to say no.
In 1959, Igor Dyatlov, a 23-year-old radio engineering student at the Ural Polytechnic Institute, put together a team of 8 other hikers, most of which were his classmates from university, to form a team for a skiing expedition. The goal was to reach the Otorten, so that's a mountain, meaning don't go there.
The mountain's like, don't go there.
The mountain is called Don't Go There.
Don't even go there. Yeah.
Why do people not listen to that?
I know.
Yeah. The whole mountain's name is Don't Go.
So they're all very experienced, being grade 2 hikers with ski tour experience. And after this 300-kilometre, which is 190 miles, expedition, they would receive grade 3, the highest level at the time in the Soviet Union. Dyatlov's team designed the route themselves, and it was approved by the Sverdlovsk Committee of Physical Culture and Sport. They added an extra team member who had previously been certified to go on another expedition of similar difficulty, a man called Semyon Zolotaryov, who was a sports teacher in his late 30s, bringing the total of people in the expedition to 10. The party included 8 men and 2 women, so we have Igor Dyatlov, who was 23, Yuri Doroshenko, who was 21, Lyudmila Dubinina, who was 20, Georgy Krivonishenko, who was 23, Alexander Kolvetov, who was 20, Zeneda Kolmogorova was 22, Rustim Slobodin was 23, Nikolai Thibaut Brignol was 23, Semyon Zolotaryov, who was 38, and lastly, Yuri Yudin, who was 21. Whew.
Go on, girl.
You did very well.
Thank you. The expedition party set off from Vizhai, the last inhabited village to the north, on January 27th, and they planned for the trek to take around 3 weeks depending on weather conditions, meaning they would be skiing through the mountains in February, the most difficult month to hike in. On January 28th, Yuri Yudin turned back due to health issues. He had rheumatism and a congenital heart defect, so as soon as he began to feel joint pain, he was like, do you know what, I'm not going to be able to keep up. So he decided he would be better just turning around and leaving the expedition. So this brought the party back down to 9. And you will see later on in the story, I'm sure you can guess what's coming, what a great decision Yuri made to go home.
Yeah, bless him. Survivor's guilt, though, maybe.
Oh, yes, but I imagine so. On the 31st of January, the team began to prepare for the climb. In a valley, they left all the food and gear that they would need on the trip back down. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, that they'll come and pick it up to go back down.
Yeah, so they're not hiking it all the way up to, so they've left all that.
I mean, makes sense, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the next day, they began to hike through the pass, hoping to get to the other side to make camp. But because the weather conditions got worse, they got slightly lost. And once they realised their mistake, they set up camp on the slope of the mountain Kholat Syakhl, meaning the mountain of the dead.
These mountains are not really inviting everyone to go climb up them, are they?
Not
They're
really.
trying to warn people with their names.
So they're camping on the mountain of the dead, trying to get to Mount Don't Go There.
Yeah.
So the mountain gained its name from the indigenous people that lived in that area of Siberia, the Mansi tribe. Igor Dyatlov had agreed that when the party returned to Vizhai, he would send a telegram to his sports club saying that all was well. He expected it to be around the 12th of February, but it may have been a little bit later. Sure enough, the 12th came and went and no telegram arrived. In fact, it never came at all. On the 20th, the families of the hikers were becoming increasingly anxious, and so search parties were sent out to find the expedition members. The first rescue mission consisted of volunteer students and teachers from the institute, but soon after the military and police would join in with planes and helicopters to try and locate the young team of hikers. On January 26, the rescue parties found the badly damaged tent on the slope of the mountain. The rescuers were totally baffled by what they found. The tent was ripped apart. No one was inside, but all the hikers' gear was. Even sliced up food on plates as if they were getting ready to eat. They found 9 sets of footprints leading away from the tent, but bizarrely, none had adequate footwear. Some were barefoot, some in socks, one had only one shoe. All their actual hiking shoes were still in the tent. After further inspection, it was deduced that the tent had been slashed from the inside, obviously meaning that the hikers had needed to get out in a panic and a hurry. But if you think about it, how long does it take to open a zip?
Also, how big was this tent that there was 9 of them inside it?
I think it must have been a pretty big tent. But, it's just a zip, especially in the 50s. They weren't that complex.
It wouldn't have been a zip, would it? It would have been like toggles or something.
Toggles. I love that word. Toggles.
That's what they're called, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know if it wouldn't be very practical on a tent, but anyway.
But that is how tents used to be. They would be like laced up with like a rope and you'd put it through and then pull it across. Definitely, I've been in tents like it.
Okay, I believe you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
But either way, they didn't use the exit. They just got a knife and cut their way out of the tent. The whole scene left the rescuers with a very foreboding feeling. Everything about it was off. And you've got to admit, it doesn't look good, does it?
It doesn't look good, no. Mm.
And sure enough, about 1.5 kilometres, or 0.93 miles, they found the first 2 bodies under a Siberian pine tree. There were visible remains of a small fire, and laying next to it were the bodies of Georgy Krivonishenko and Yuri Doroshenko, dressed only in their underwear, carefully placed next to one another. The tree had broken and ripped off branches up to 5 metres off the ground. It looked like one of the hikers had tried to climb the tree, maybe to try and find the camp or see what was happening back at camp. Either way, it definitely looked like they had purposely tried to create a spot to look back at the tent from. There were a lot of other broken branches found around, cut with a knife. It is supposed that the hikers were trying to create protection for themselves using the branches, as only dry little twigs had been used for the fire, not these big branches. The bark of the tree was also covered in blood and skin, as if the hikers had been frantically trying to climb it.
Oh, God.
What happened?
Skin.
Yuri's cause of death was concluded to be hypothermia. His autopsy report does leave certain questions, though. He was covered in scratches and bruises. The right side of his head was burnt. He had blood on his ears, nose and lips. All his fingers and toes were severely frostbitten. If he'd actually survived, they would have had to all be amputated. He also had a grey foam coming from his mouth. So it's been hypothesised that this could be from a pulmonary edema caused by someone or something pressing heavily on his chest before death, or possibly caused by falling out the tree. But this was all ignored, saying that he caused these injuries to himself by hitting himself with rocks and ice before death, and that he did definitely die of hypothermia. So we're just kind of swooping past the grey foam coming out of his mouth.
Yeah.
And also, I've read quite a lot in these autopsy reports that they hurt themselves in the agony of death, but when you get hypothermia, don't you just, go to sleep?
No, I think you can run around and take your clothes off because you feel hot.
Yeah, you feel hot, yeah. I can't remember what that's called. I think it's paradoxal undressing or something like that.
Yeah, that's when you're, gonna die. So, your body kind of... I don't know what it does, but it makes you feel like you're hot and you go a bit mental, but...
Oh, so do you think that could be it?
I'm not sure. I haven't heard of people hitting themselves.
No. Georgie's cause of death was also hypothermia. He was found in very much the same state as Yuri, covered in bruises, cuts and scratches. The tip of his nose was missing, but the lack of blood suggests that it was probably caused by an animal after he'd died. Some of his fingers were badly damaged and were charred from being burnt. He had a big burn on his outer left leg. Some of his toes were charred, and most disturbingly, he had a piece of flesh missing from his right hand that they found inside his mouth.
It's so weird.
Bit of a chomp.
Yeah. Between the tree and the camp, rescuers would find another 3 bodies. Igor Dyatlov, Zinaida Kolmogorova, and Rustem Slobodin. Their corpses were found in such positions that suggested that they were trying to get back to the camp. Igor Dyatlov was wearing more clothes, some taken from his friends' dead bodies, but had no shoes and only 1 sock. His injuries were all superficial, bruising and scratching like the other 2. His hands, however, showed injuries that resembled those one would get after having a fist fight. His cause of death was also concluded to be hypothermia. So, to begin with, when they found those 2, the first 2, Yuri and Georgie, they presumed it was what you were saying. That's why they were in their underwear. They'd had that massive hot feeling and taken all their clothes off and died of hypothermia. But it actually turns out that they must have been the first 2 to die, and then whatever clothes they had were taken by the survivors to try and, have more clothing on them to give them a better chance in surviving. Because we find it a lot. I don't know if I've mentioned it every time because it would get a bit tedious, but most of these people had other people's clothing on.
Right.
But he had no shoes and only 1 sock. Zinaida Kolmogorova had more clothes on again. Some were ripped or even cut off. She had 2 hats, a long-sleeved undershirt, a shirt and a sweater, 3 pairs of trousers and 3 pairs of socks. She had bruising and scratching, many to her face and hands, and a large bruise along her back as if she'd been hit with a baton. Her cause of death was decided to be hypothermia caused by a violent accident. So I'm not quite sure what that means, as if...
So does it mean that she was like hit or her and then incapacitated and then wouldn't have died of her injuries but died because she couldn't seek help and froze to death?
Yeah, I think that's what they mean. So the third, Rustem Slobodin, was found closest to the tent. He again had substantially more clothes on. He had 4 pairs of socks on and 1 boot. His injuries looked like he'd been in a fistfight, bruised knuckles, swelling and bruising to the face, and a fractured skull. The skull fracture looked like it could have been caused by a blunt object, but would not have been enough to cause his death. But it might have made Rustem confused and disorientated. He also had skin ripped from his right forearm and hemorrhaging on both sides of his head. These head injuries looked like he fell repeatedly on his face, but this is weird, as he was probably the hiker in the best physical condition. And even if he had repeatedly fallen, his hands would show signs, because people tend to catch themselves with your hands, don't you?
They do. Yeah. I know all about that.
That's how you get broken elbows.
Yeah.
It just looked like he'd just fallen flat on his face without trying to catch himself, which
so
is...
almost like someone had smashed his head.
Possibly.
You know, like when you see in films and stuff and they get their head and they're like, boom, boom, boom.
Bang, bang.
Yeah.
So yeah, people tend to try and catch themselves with their hands, but this was obviously not the case for Rustem. Rescuers would have to wait another 4 months before finding the other 4 members of the expedition. In May, when the snow started to melt, a Mansi native was walking his dog when he began to find clothes. On the 5th of May, the other bodies were found in a type of den that they had made to protect themselves from the elements. They had taken great care in building the den. They had moved further from the tree, about 75 metres, and had gone down a ravine. They had laid out branches on the floor to stop their bodies having direct contact with the snow, and had taken clothes from the dead hikers to protect themselves more. Now, this is where shit gets really, really weird. The autopsy of these 4 remaining hikers all had internal injuries, so bad that it looked like they'd been hit by a car. Lyudmila Dubinina had skin and flesh missing from around her eyes, her eyebrows, her nose, her cheekbones were exposed, her eyes were missing, Her nose was destroyed and completely flat. Her upper lip was missing, exposing her teeth and her upper jaw. Her tongue was missing. She had 4 ribs that were broken on the right side and 6 on the left. She had a huge hemorrhage in her heart, and they found dark mucus in her stomach that indicates that her heart was still beating when her tongue was removed.
Oh, gosh. Lovey. Poor love.
It's awful, isn't it? Her cause of death was written as a massive hemorrhage of the heart and internal bleeding. Semyon Zolotaryov had flesh missing around his eyebrow, exposing the bone. His eyes were missing. He had a large wound on the side of his head that was exposing his skull. His chest was crushed with 5 broken ribs. He was also found with a camera around his neck. Now, this camera was not accounted for. The team had 4 cameras, all found inside the tent. So this 5th camera had been hidden. Sadly, or some would say conveniently, the water damage had destroyed the film inside, making it impossible to see what Semyon had photographed that night. He was also found with a notepad that an investigator grabbed and loudly said, "Oh, he didn't write anything," in an annoyed voice. That notepad was never seen again. The similarities in injuries to both Lyudmila and Semyon are perplexing, because it looks like they were caused by the same thing. But taking into account the different morphologies and height of the two, the trauma would not be as identical as it is. So if you imagine, say they get hit by an object. They're both stood and they get hit by an object.
Yeah.
He's larger and taller, she's shorter and slimmer. So the object, if it hits them both at the same time, it's not going to cause identical injuries because it's not going to hit them in the same parts of their body.
Yeah.
Are you with me?
Yeah.
Meaning that it's improbable that both were injured at the same time by one single event. Alexander Kolvatov was found with missing flesh around both eyebrows, a broken nose, and a deformed neck. His autopsy report doesn't go into more detail about how he could have obtained these injuries. Nikolai Thibault Brignol was found with a massive skull fracture, meaning that parts of his skull would have either been touching or forced into his brain. But he had no exterior trauma except a bruise on his lip and a bleed on his arm. So again, that's weird. If you're whacking your head so hard that you're pushing parts of your skull into your brain, there should be a bruise.
Some external bruising, yeah.
There's nothing. There's nothing to explain such a massive injury.
That's
Internal,
wild.
yeah.
As far as I can see, no direct cause of death was written on the autopsy report, but one would expect it to be the massive internal injuries that they'd all received. At first, the Mansi people were suspected of attacking the hikers, but this was soon disproven as firstly, there were no other footprints apart from the hikers themselves. Remember I said there was 9 pairs of footprints. And secondly, the injuries sustained by the 4, as said previously, were caused with such a force that no human could have caused them. The bodies found in the den were radioactive, which, although is very strange, what makes it weirder for me is that people checked for radiation in the first place. It's not exactly common to check it when finding people that have died out in the snow. You know, quick, let's check them for radiation. I don't feel like that's the first thing you do.
No.
Well, unless there had been some, like, I don't know, leak or I don't know how radiation gets in. I don't really know, but
well, there's an explanation for it, but it's thin. It doesn't really stand
they're
up.
clutching at straws.
Yeah. 2 years previously, one of the hikers had lived in an area where there had been a nuclear incident. And another one of the hikers had helped during the clean-up of this nuclear accident. But for them to have been still radioactive, they would have had to be wearing the same exact clothes that they were 2 years ago and not have washed since.
Yeah.
Which seems
Improbable.
pretty unlikely.
Yeah.
Because of the radioactivity, the helicopters refused to transport the corpses, which outraged investigators and the rescue team who had just carried these 4 bodies to the top of a ravine. Even the medical expert refused to cut or examine the bodies on site. At the end of his wits, one of the investigators pulled a pistol and threatened the helicopter crew. The situation was calmed down by another investigator, and the medical examiner agreed to reorganise the bodies for transportation, and eventually the helicopter agreed to take them. I mean, this is so bizarre. They're checking for radioactivity. The helicopter crews are saying we're not taking them. It could be dangerous. They're radioactive. It's very bizarre.
They know something they're not saying, don't they?
Something was possibly being tested on the mountain.
Maybe. Staying on the radioactivity of the hikers, a 12-year-old boy named Yuri Kuntsevich, who attended 5 of the hikers' funerals, said they all had an odd, deep brown tan. I imagine he's saying it's more odd than just when you've been out in the elements, because they've obviously been out in the snow and, you know, you get a tan, don't you, when you're in the snow?
Yeah.
For him to mention it, it must have been quite a bizarre-looking tan. Now, apparently the campsite was on a Soviet parachute mine exercise path. So parachute mines explode whilst they're still in the air. And witnesses did see orange sphere-like lights in the sky that night. So possibly the sound of the explosions could have frightened the hikers out of their tent, causing them to flee, and not being able to return to their camp before succumbing to -20 up to -40 degrees temperature. Another theory is that they were in a testing area for radiological weapons.
Plausible.
And this could explain the radioactivity and the tans, and the fact that some of the hikers were found with grey hair. So that was also a thing.
It could explain some of the internal injuries as well, couldn't it? Doesn't it make your bones brittle?
I don't know, but I don't, if you're like hit with like a wave, I don't know, of radioactivity, does it? I don't know. It might do, Becky. It might cause, yes, I imagine it does actually start internally.
Yeah.
So yes, some of them had grey hair as well. But if this had truly been the case, then all of the corpses would have been radioactive, and not just the 4 that were found in the den.
Yeah.
Because of the orange lights in the sky, people have wondered if the party were attacked by extraterrestrials. Terrestrials.
I mean,
extraterrestrials.
could.
I mean, these are all theories. I think even at one point, Bigfoot, somebody's on about the Yeti. A Yeti got them.
Well, but there were no footprints, were there?
No. But, you see, with aliens, there wouldn't be footprints, would there?
Well, no, but that rules out a Yeti.
It does rule out the Yeti. There is definitely something very weird about the whole thing. Witnesses on the investigation said things were rushed, photos were not taken, and the investigators seemed under pressure to wrap the case up, which absolutely points to something needing to be covered up. After seeing the pictures of the tent, people have stated that it wasn't even assembled properly, which is a mistake none of these experienced hikers would make. The knife used for cutting the tree branches, and the tent, and potentially the clothes off the dead, was never found. Only the sheath, you know, the cover of the blade, but not the blade itself. Infrasound is another interesting theory, basically meaning that the wind going around the mountain collet created a Kármán vortex street, which can produce infrasound that can cause panic attacks and hysteria in people. The hikers would have been affected in the tent and fled in a panic, but once they got further down into the wooded area, they were out of the infrasound's reach and regained composure, but died trying to make it back up to the tent. Of course, an avalanche has been put forward as the most logical explanation, but when the tent was found, it wasn't covered in snow.
And they could still see their footprints.
Exactly. Nor were the first 5 bodies. The other 4 were, but only due to the snowfall over the 4 months it took to find them. Plus, apparently avalanches are not really known to happen in the area where the camp had been set up. But as far as I know, even after the case was reopened recently, and I think it was in 2019 off the top of my head that they reopened the case to try and figure out what had happened, they decided it was an avalanche. A slab avalanche is said to be the cause of the tragedy. Scientists have tested the theory, and although improbable, it's not impossible that it was an avalanche.
Do they have bears?
Bears never came up.
There would be footprints. There would be signs of them.
And there would be blood. There would be a lot of blood.
Yeah, and I was just thinking to make them run for the tent. Maybe the bear didn't actually get anyone. Oh, bears, like, maul, don't they? If they actually caught someone,
they would have known.
Pretty bad. But I was just thinking maybe if they heard a bear, they'd run away.
I don't know if they have bears in Siberia. Anybody? Do they have bears in Siberia?
Do you know that they have well, I think we've mentioned this before, but they have bears in France.
Do they have bears in France?
Where?
Pyrenees. Bears.
Really?
Stop
Yeah,
it.
I was like, what?
What, like
There
still?
isn't bears in France, but there is, yeah.
I know we had wolves, but I didn't know we had bears. What kind of bear?
I think there's like brown bears.
What, but are they still there?
Yeah. We were talking about some, and then my husband mentioned bears. And I was like, there's no bears in France. She was like, there is. And I looked it up on Google, and there is.
I'm looking it up now because my mind's blown.
That's crazy.
I think wolves were reintroduced as well.
Yeah, wolves were reintroduced.
They were reintroduced, it said.
Yeah.
A few years
same
ago.
as wolves. Yeah. Nice. I know that we're hours and hours away from the Pyrenees, but I was like, right, well, that's another thing that I have to fear now.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't know that before my daughter just went skiing in the Pyrenees.
Ah, nice. You'll know for the next daughter.
Yes, thanks.
Sorry, Emma. Yeah, I think they don't like humans. They're very shy and go away. And I don't think they'll be anywhere near a very noisy skiing
resort. No.
Yeah.
Okay, back to our thingamajig.
Yeah.
So all these theories seem plausible, but there's always something that doesn't quite fit. Like, why the fuck was somebody's tongue and eyes missing?
Yeah.
Because it's not just chewed, and there's physical proof that she was alive when it happened. So what's gone on there? Where is the tongue? Because nobody ever found a tongue. Where the fuck's the tongue and the eyes? Because again, they're not saying the eyes have been pecked out or chewed on. All it says in the autopsy reports are the eyes are missing. The ocular orbits are empty.
Sorry, but this coroner just wasn't very good, was he?
The autopsies are very,
shit.
Yeah,
They've really skated over it.
Yeah,
They've really just stated the obvious, haven't they?
Yeah.
Rather than sort of investigating it.
Yeah.
It's like they got The Apprentice on it.
Yeah. I just think they just didn't really want everyone knowing everything, so they're just like, oh, we'll just give them very vague information.
It does seem very vague.
A bit cover-uppy.
So, also, according to the footprints leading away from the area, the hikers were walking, not fleeing in a panic, which one would if being attacked by parachute mines or thinking an avalanche is coming or being driven mad by infrasound.
Yeah.
This is where I get confused. They panic enough to slash their way out of a tent. They're not dressed properly, and these are experienced people. They know that they are going to freeze to death if they haven't got the right equipment on. They walk out of the tent. Doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't.
Is it not the same person that's been up to the tent again and it's just lots of the same footprints? Because if they're so vague going over the autopsy, I'm not trusting how that they say, well, this person's footprints. And the fact that the snow moves around as well. So it's not going to be a perfect footprint as if it was in mud and it stays there.
I think they were able to identify each person's footprint because of what they were wearing on their feet.
Yeah. Like boot, no
and like
shoe.
shoe size and stuff.
Because one guy had one shoe and 3 pairs of socks. Another guy had like a leather pair of socks, but no shoes. Somebody else was completely barefoot. Do you see what I mean? I think that's how they were able to identify whose belonged to who.
There'd always be doubt there, though, because of how snow is and it blows around. And it took them ages to find everyone.
Yeah.
So that's more the fact that they can't be 100% sure.
All they can be 100% sure of is that there were 9 sets of footprints. By digging a bit further, I found that the number 9 has some significance in the area. The Dyatlov group could have inadvertently disturbed a sanctuary where local priests performed rituals. Mount Kolat has a sacred meaning for the Mansi people and has a legend that goes with it. It is said that in ancient times there was a temple where they would sacrifice animals for the goddess of death, Sorni Nai, on the top, each time killing 9 creatures. One day, for unknown reasons, the priest sacrificed 9 young hunters instead of the animals. And the goddess liked that very much and decided she preferred humans to animals. In the 1920s, a group of 9 geologists also died near the mountain, and shortly before the Dyatlov incident, 9 escaped prisoners who fled from the Ivdel camp were also found dead in the same spot. In fact, until 1959, 27 people had died around Mount Kolat. So, was the expedition doomed from the start? Was the goddess Sorni Nai just claiming her latest sacrifices? This all depends if you believe in the legend or not, but you must admit it is strange that groups of 9 seem to die around that area.
It's very strange.
In the aftermath of the mysterious Dyatlov Pass incident, extensive investigations failed to provide conclusive answers, leaving the events shrouded in uncertainty and speculation. However, as time passed, the incident became synonymous with the name of its leader, Igor Dyatlov, immortalizing his memory. Decades later, a memorial was erected at the site of the tragedy, serving as a haunting reminder of the lives lost and the enduring enigma that continues to captivate the imagination of those who dare to delve into its perplexing depths. Though the passage of time may soften the edges of the story, the mystery of Dyatlov's Pass remains etched into history, forever intriguing and unsettling in its unresolved nature.
Ooh. So many what ifs.
What do you think it was?
I just can't believe that they haven't come up with any plausible explanations.
I think there's somebody out there who knows exactly what happened.
I think the Russian government know exactly what happened, they just won't tell us. I mean, they're not well known for sharing everything, are they? So why would they start with this?
Yeah. But I just wonder what it was. I really do, because I definitely think that 5th camera that was, like, not declared.
Yeah, definitely.
I definitely think there was stuff on there. And I definitely think there was stuff on the notepad as well.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's everything, isn't it? The guy's biting his own flesh off. The 2 guys that look like they had a fight. The guy that looks like he just fell and hit his face repeatedly. And the 4 in the den that look like they've been hit by a bloody car. I mean, apart from the eyes and tongue missing, which is fucking horrifying, but their chests are caved in, you know. I can't find an explanation for any of it.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. There's not enough. Like, normally they'd be like, they haven't even explored the paranormal, like.
Well, maybe they have, but they're just not saying.
It's just weird. It's just weird. Are there like documentaries on this?
I imagine so.
Yeah,
it's a very, very famous story. Yeah. So had you heard of it, Becky?
Yeah, I'd heard of it, but not known of all what you've just told me.
Yeah.
I think if we have to choose a version, I'm going to go that they were testing something that maybe they shouldn't have, and it made everyone go mental.
Yeah.
And that's why people with such injuries managed to get so far away from the tent.
Oh, you think they were injured before leaving the tent?
Possibly injured before, or because they were running away, they could have hurt themselves, but just kept going until literally...
They weren't running, that's the point. They just sauntered away like normal.
Well, yeah, I don't know, made them go zombie.
It's just so inconsistent.
I think something made them go nuts.
Yeah.
But I can't, unless she ripped out her own tongue or or one of the others ripped it out. I don't know.
But they don't even talk about whether there was, like, each other's, you know, like, if they'd fought each other, do they?
No.
Was there other people, like, the DNA? I guess they didn't have DNA back then, so that's what's really difficult. But, like, the scratch marks on one person, was that caused by one of the other members in the party?
Yeah, because multiple of them had bruised hands, didn't they? So they could have all gone a bit nuts, had a fight, and that's why they kind of split up.
But I tell you what, that doesn't explain someone's skull being smashed in the inside, but not any visible.
Outside.
Like, there's so many things that, like, are so unexplained.
That's why I'm thinking, was it something that just literally made his head splinter inwards because it just moulded him so much? But it depends if was he radioactive or not.
Yes.
So he was.
But then why did they leave the tent with no shoes? Like, there's so many inconsistencies. So, like, yeah, they could have been doing something they shouldn't have been doing, or they'd been sent on a quest or whatever. Not a quest, but, you know, like an experiment or whatever. Doing field work, whatever. But it doesn't explain why they had no shoes. It doesn't explain why some people died sooner than others. Like, it doesn't... Why were some radioactive and some weren't? Like, it's all...
Some had been moved as well.
Yeah, like, who's moved them?
Well, I think it's the first lot of people that had died were moved, obviously, by the survivors. Like the first two, Yuri and Georgie, they were laying right next to each other, just like side by side. And they could tell by I think when you die, you get some kind of spots. I can't remember what they're called. Where like dried blood collects or something. And
yeah, if you're lying on your back, it all goes to your back.
Yeah, so they could tell by those spots that they had been moved or turned to face another direction. It's just weird.
It's too inconsistent. It's not. It's just weird. There's something more to it.
Mystery.
It is a complete mystery, and it's a very spooky one. I've wanted to do that one for ages, but there's so much information. You know, when you just feel so like you're like, I can't tell this story. I can't do it justice. But I've got confident now.
You did great. I'm fully invested.
Brilliant.
Right. That's me done.
Rebecca.
Oh, well done. Right. So this week, because I did Florida Man last time. It's not the same sort of thing again. It's not Florida Man, but it's a different type of case to what I normally do. So this week, it's about the Heaney family. So Richard Heaney and Mayumi Lacusa met in acting school in Hollywood, California in the 90s, and they would get married in 1997. So Heaney, when I say Heaney, I'm talking about Richard, the guy. Heaney had tried acting and stand-up comedy without success. And for a time, him and his wife ran a home business producing demo reels for actors. I don't know what a demo reel is. Is it like when they have like a few tryouts to show to an acting company?
Yeah, I guess it's when they're like...
Yeah, I imagine so.
Is it like their pre-audition almost?
Like
is
their
like
portfolio?
A video portfolio?
Yeah, I reckon so.
Okay. I'm glad we agree. Randomly, Heaney is also a handyman, but I think when you're trying to make it in Hollywood, you kind of have to be able to do lots of things to make money so you can keep going to auditions and stuff.
Definitely.
So I think that's why he was a
handyman probably works quite well because you can just do it for yourself.
Yeah. People would describe Heaney as a shameless self-promoter who would do almost anything to advance his latest endeavour, which I reckon half the people that are trying to make it in Hollywood are just exactly like that.
You've got to back yourself, man.
Yeah, Heaney seemed to always be wanting more and chasing something new and more exciting. Heaney became a storm chaser in the 1970s, so this is before he got married, after a storm took the roof off the building he was working on. So even when he was trying to make it in Hollywood, he was also like a storm chaser and all this. He was everything all at once.
All very impressive stuff.
Yeah. Heaney's storm chasing has included riding a motorcycle into a tornado.
Fucking hell. Jesus.
And reportedly flying a plane round the perimeter of Hurricane Wilma in 2005.
Safe. He sounds like the kind of guy that would go to Mount Don't Go There or the Mountain of the Dead.
On a weekend.
Yeah, just have a quick visit.
Yeah. So the Heaney's have 3 sons. So Falcon, Bradford and Rio. He also regularly involved his children in his endeavours, taking them along to UFO hunting expeditions and storm chasing missions.
Oh, so he looks for the aliens as well.
He looks, he's got his eye on the sky.
Eye on the sky.
More ways than one.
I can't.
But
is
also,
it wrong?
What a cool dad when you're a young lad.
Absolutely. Is it wrong that I really like the name Falcon? I think that's so cool. Is it tacky?
I like Rio. Rio's a nice name.
Oh, one of the girls at work is called Rio. I like it too.
Yeah, it's a lovely name. Bradford is just because Bradford's in the UK, so it doesn't sound as cool. But yeah, Falcon. So still like chasing his want for fame, the family actually featured on the reality TV show Wife Swap.
Oh God.
Do you remember that? I used to love
It was
Wife
so
Swap.
good.
Yeah, so dramatic, wasn't it? Well, the US version was very more played up for the cameras than the UK version, I think. But during his time on the show, Heaney expressed his belief in that humanity descended from aliens. He had been inventing homemade flying saucers and homemade things that he could fly into storms so that he could like film what's going on the inside.
It's mental.
Yeah. So Heaney's eccentricity was very entertaining for the viewers of Wife Swap, and the family were actually invited back to the show for a second time on the 100 episode fan favourite. Like, on the 100th episode, it was like a fan favourite episode where they got 2 favourite families back. Yeah. Not wanting his 15 minutes of fame to end, and now that he had a taste for it, and the fact that the family were so popular on that show, he actually proposed a reality show called The Science Detectives, which he envisioned as like a documentary series to investigate the mysteries of science, but also doubling as a reality show to follow him and his like kooky family. So he like pitched that to TLC, which is like a big channel.
Well, that's where they have all the weird reality shows, isn't it? TLC.
I think it's what Wife Swap was shown on. They were initially really interested. Well, that's what he said. They were initially interested, but then passed on the offer. They didn't want to do it. So Heaney went back to the drawing board and he think, well, how can I get people interested in our family and what we're doing? So he decided to make his own flying saucer. So he started working on it and he went through a few different plans and he started making a prototype. So the prototype at first, to get all the measurements right, was a giant like saucer shaped balloon. His end goal was to design a vehicle that people can pull out of their garage and hover above traffic. So I don't know if he meant just like what it's kind of starting out as is like a hot air balloon.
Yeah.
But I don't know whether he wants to attach it to a vehicle so you can like float to work and pop it down, or whether this will eventually turn into some sort of vehicle that can float over everyone, like a flying car. The first prototype that he'd designed was this, saucer-shaped balloon that had a high voltage timer on it. And when it was switched on, the balloon would emit 1 million volts every 5 minutes for 1 minute in order to move left and right.
Okay.
And then horizontal. So that's how it's like powered. So it doesn't sound very efficient to me, but this is how it was going to start anyway for the first prototype. So the balloon was 20 feet, so just over 6 meters in diameter, and 5 feet or 1.5 meters high. It was constructed from plastic tarps taped together, covered in an aluminium foil, and held together with string and duct tape, just a prototype for the minute so he can get his calculations right.
You can't go wrong with foil and duct tape.
That's what I make all my prototypes out of.
Yeah.
Not giving me much confidence, really, if it's all duct tape and foil.
Bit of string.
I wonder if he was wearing his tin hat as well when he was doing it. And then at the bottom of the balloon was like a box / kind of baskety thing that it would eventually hold the person travelling. So it's like a box at the bottom.
So it does sound like a hot air balloon if there's a basket.
It does, doesn't it? But no, it's full of helium and not hot air. The balloon of that size would contain just over 1,000 cubic feet of helium, so it's quite a lot of helium.
Imagine his voice if you sucked all that in.
Hello. Helium's lift capacity decreases the higher it gets. So the higher it gets into the sky, the less weight it can lift.
Okay.
So at like sea level, it'd probably be able to lift a weight of about 65 pounds, which is just under 30 kilos. So yeah, if it went up to about 8,000 feet, so 2,400 meters above the ground, what it could lift would go down to about 22 kilos, so 48 pounds. So that's how, the higher it gets there.
The less it can take.
Yes. So on the 15th of October 2009, the family were all in the garden with their newly finished prototype balloon with its duct tape and everything.
String. God.
So they set up a camera to film what was going on, and they were filling up the balloon with helium.
They're not going to try it, are they?
They're going to try it, but just to see how much helium it needs to actually take off for the measurements that is done. This is just to test it. The children were playing in the garden, and they were standing in the basket, the base at the bottom and everything, playing. And then once it starts getting fuller, he was like, right, everyone out. Everyone hold on to these ropes until the balloon is full up enough so that we can let it go. Falcon was only 6 at the time. It was the 2 older children that were helping hold the balloon down, along with Mayumi, Richard's wife. They were all holding down with different ropes. And when the balloon was full, they did a countdown, 3, 2, 1, before releasing the cords. But they forgot to tether down the balloon. So Richard was like, oh no, shit. He was like, you didn't tether it, shit. And then he went and kicked something in the garden.
I thought you were going to say he went and kicked his children.
And he went and kicked his children. But I think he was just like, all that duct tape, man. Helium's expensive.
So much foil.
Aluminum.
Yeah, aluminum. All that aluminum flying around. And also, it's a massive balloon. It's not like you've let go a balloon at a party. This is a big balloon.
Yeah.
So Richard Heaney, believing that all his hard work was just floating off into the sky, was swearing and annoyed with himself. And that's when the family looked around and realised that Falcon was nowhere to be seen.
Oh my God.
This is not where I thought this story was going.
Was he in the balloon? Shit. One of the Heaney children wasn't sure whether they saw Falcon get into the basket not long before they let the balloon go. But because they were all holding onto the cord and trying to hold it down, they were not really sure. So as a balloon this big actually poses a threat to air traffic, they had to ring up the FAA, which is the Federal Aviation Administration, to report the balloon as being in the sky. They also called Denver NBC affiliate Coosa TV, so a TV station, to see if they could get a helicopter in the air to follow the balloon. And they also called emergency services to report that their son could be in this balloon that is now very high in the sky. Yeah, so they couldn't find the son anywhere. And they did have the camera set up. So they tried to look, but they couldn't see Falcon anywhere on the video. And part of it, it was obstructed from a point. So he could have got in when they couldn't see. Anyway, they couldn't find him. And also he had to mention to everyone that the balloon is set to emit electricity every 5 minutes. And that, obviously, because it's a prototype, we don't know whether that is a massive threat to Falcon that's in the balloon.
Oh, Lord, you Lord.
Jesus. What fucking idiots.
Also, to make things worse, its base where Falcon was sitting was a box made from a very thin piece of plywood, and on the side was made out of cardboard.
Oh my God.
It's also, like I mentioned earlier, all been held together by string and duct tape.
This is mental. Do you know, it actually terrifies me that people can just do this. They can just, like, go and do this. What idiot.
Well, they didn't know. They thought they'd put the balloon down, so even if the kid got in the balloon, they could have just pulled it down by the tethered rope, even though I wouldn't have told my child to get into this thing that's apparently going to emit electricity.
It's just the fact that this guy has built this thing out of string and duct tape and foil that emits electricity and is now potentially, you know, it could crash into a plane, it could kill hundreds of people.
Could set a fire.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
It's some dickhead in his garden trying to, well, be a dickhead.
Be famous. He wants to be famous. I think that's what he was chasing.
Yeah, but he's a dickhead, right?
Yeah. He's a plank.
As more and more media reports came in about the balloon, the nation watched in suspense as the silver balloon drifted for miles across the Colorado skies, with authorities scrambling to devise a plan to rescue young Falcon Heaney. News networks provided around-the-clock coverage of the story, so the boy in the balloon was nicknamed Balloon Boy.
That original.
Does that ring a bell? Balloon Boy.
No.
I wasn't sure whether you'd heard of this, because it was, like, massive when it happened.
I live under a rock.
The news networks were on it all the time and just panicking everyone.
I mean, what a story for them to cover, though.
Yeah, and a 6-year-old is in a balloon thousands of meters above the floor.
On a piece of plywood.
Yeah, on a piece of plywood. And because of the way that the base was, it was like a closed base, like a little shed. So they couldn't look down into the basket to see if he was in there. The door was like a door you opened and you'd fall out.
Fuck me.
I know.
That seems like,
He wasn't planning on anyone going in it. I think they were just going to put rocks in it.
Okay.
You know, they weren't planning on anyone going in this thing.
Yeah, because that seems like a bit of a flaw.
Yeah. It was a moment of collective anxiety and disbelief as the fate of a child hung in the balance.
Imagine if he was just, like, playing under his bed.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
That's what we're hoping. Yeah. I think they looked for him, though.
Well,
but it was like
hope.
an instant, oh shit, is he in the balloon? Because he was like nowhere to be seen.
Yeah.
So I think that's why they just got onto the phone pretty much straight away, but they did look for him.
Yeah.
The balloon was tracked by helicopters and drifted for 60 miles, so 97 kilometers, passing through Adams County and Weld County. Planes were rerouted around the balloon's flight path. The media at first reported that Denver National Airport was briefly shut down, but this was later determined to be incorrect. The balloon finally landed 2 hours later at around 1:35 p.m. near Keensburg. So that was about 12 miles northwest of the airport of Denver National Airport. It was soon discovered that Falcon was not inside the base of the balloon, which made officials express real concern that he might have fallen at some point during the flight.
It's making me feel very, very anxious.
Yeah, although it was reported that the base didn't appear to be broken, the door was unlocked.
And that is why we don't use a door as a floor.
I think the door's on the side, Tash. It's not on the floor. It's not like a trap door.
It's a trap door.
I mean, I don't know.
No, it's a door, like a door, not a trap door. How would you get in it?
I don't know. It was a
jump through the
prototype,
floor.
so it didn't matter. You weren't meant to get in it.
No, it does. Nothing matters, apparently, on this one. Reports came in that a sheriff had reported seeing something fall from the balloon near Platteville, Colorado. So once that was started going on the media, a photograph actually was sent in, and you could see, well, it's very grainy, but you could see a little black dot underneath the balloon as if something was falling out of the balloon. And then once that was reported, you had a lot of people ringing to say that they also think that they saw something falling out of the balloon. So search and rescue all scrambled to try and find him, to try and figure out where roughly the photograph was taken and go and search that area. However, the nationwide fear quickly turned to bewilderment as it became apparent that Falcon had actually been hiding in the family's attic the entire time. And thankfully it was not in the balloon at all. The Heaney family was obviously very, very relieved.
Obviously, but they're in a shit ton of trouble.
Yeah. After the incident, several news agencies began questioning whether it was a hoax. Few had raised the issue of whether such a balloon could even lift off with a 50-pound kid inside and then float away as quickly as it did. The police initially said that it did not appear to be a hoax, but when Falcon and his family were being interviewed later that day by news crews, one of the reporters asked Falcon, "Why did you not come out of the attic?" And after his parents repeated the question back to him, because he's only 6, and he said, "Oh, you guys said that we did this for the show?"
Oh, truth comes out of the mouth of babes.
Yeah, yes and no. Because my kids say weird shit, and I'm like, why did you say that? That is not right. Or it makes you look a certain way, and I'm like, so whether he'd heard his dad say, this might get as a show, as like a joke, and then he just took that to be true.
Yeah.
But anyway, the next day, during more interviews with the news, he was asked about his comment the previous day again and again by all these reporters. He actually ended up vomiting because of all these people questioning him.
Just too stressed, little lad.
Yeah.
Bless him.
So he could also been stressed that he'd said something that has been perceived as that way.
Yeah.
And also he could be stressed that his parents are asking him to lie and he's not liking that. So Falcon's answers prompted the sheriff's office to pursue further investigations into this and as to whether the incident was part of a publicity stunt.
I do think the police need to look at themselves as well. Why did nobody look in the attic?
Because they were in fucking helicopters following this.
But surely
balloon.
when they came to the house, they would have then looked around the house.
Yeah, and the family said that they didn't see Falcon go into the basket. It's one of the children that thought that they possibly saw him go into the basket. Not into the basket, into the base of it. And then, like I said, that on the footage that they'd filmed, you can't see Falcon anywhere. But then on the footage as well, it cuts off before they start panicking about whether the Falcon was possibly in the base or not. So, you know, there's the whole side of they accidentally let this massive balloon up in the air. We're going to get in trouble for that because this would have all still happened. Planes would have had to be, like, diverted. It would have been a big shit. So whether they figured that they'd do this big thing hoax to not get in trouble, or whether they just panicked and thought, shit, where's the 6-year-old? And when you can't find them, I wouldn't really think of looking in the attic. Like, what kid goes into the attic?
Yeah, but they surely do. That's the point, isn't it? Because a 6-year-old, if all that's going on, they're setting off this balloon, a 6-year-old isn't going to fuck off and go look in an attic at that point, are they?
And also, they would
Balloons
have shouted
fun.
for him. Yeah.
It's a hoax.
Yeah, the unravelling of the Balloon Boy saga revealed a web of deception and manipulation orchestrated by Richard Heaney himself. That what they thought was the balloon, initially, you know, believed to be a vessel carrying a young boy in peril, was nothing more than a prop in Richard's elaborate scheme for fame and notoriety.
Oh, he's got it. I'm not sure it's the kind he wants.
The fallout from the Balloon Boy hoax was swift and far-reaching. Richard Heaney faced criminal charges, including felony charges for attempting to influence a public servant, and a misdemeanor charges for contributing to the delinquency of a minor. So that, I think that means by trying to make his kid lie about what really happened.
Yeah.
After intense questioning for a long time, Mayumi the wife would eventually admit that she knew that Falcon was hiding in the attic. So Heaney ultimately pleaded guilty to a felony charge and was sentenced to 90 days in jail.
90 days?
Yeah, 4 years of probation. Mayumi Heaney also faced charges but received a lesser sentence.
They should have got more than that. Anyway.
Yeah, well, at first they were throwing around massive fines, like $500,000 fines.
Well, how much did all that cost?
A lot.
That would have cost millions.
Yeah, it would have cost millions, but I think there's a maximum that they can make a person pay for. So they were throwing around fines like 20 grand for this, 500,000 for that. They were throwing around these big fines, and if you can't pay, you have to go to prison. So he was actually going to go to prison for a long time. They managed to deal the way out of it a little bit. And also the media frenzy, because the media really pumped everyone up about it and reported a lot of things that they shouldn't have reported and they didn't check. So the media frenzy surrounding the Bloom Boy incident raised questions about the ethics of sensationalized news coverage and the pursuit of ratings at the expense of journalistic integrity. So they were just chasing the ratings and get everyone up, like all these new bits and bobs, rather than actually see if it was true or not.
But that's what the media does.
Yeah. But I think they did it a lot quicker than what they normally would do.
Yeah.
And the people calling in about something falling from the balloon, load of shit.
But there's photographs, so something did fall from the balloon.
So whether it's just it could have been a bird, it could have been anything. Could have been something falling off the balloon, that could be true. Want a bit of duct tape? I don't know.
Could have been anything.
Furthermore, the incident shed light on the allure of reality TV fame and the lengths to which individuals may go to achieve it. Richard Heaney's desperate bid for attention not only jeopardized the safety of his own family, but also wasted valuable resources and diverted attention from genuine emergencies.
Well, yeah.
You know, I'm pretty sure something bad happened to someone because they were all in helicopters trying to find this balloon instead of actually going to real emergencies. It's now been 14 years since the famous Bloom Boy hoax. But even now, as a teenager, Falcon and his parents are still standing by their story. Richard Heaney maintains to this day that his wife, Mayumi, and their 3 sons were working on the flying saucer in the backyard of their home with the video cameras rolling. And when the homemade device got loose, they panicked and just feared for their 6-year-old son's life. And they thought that he was inside of it.
She'd already admitted it, so now has she gone back on it?
Yeah, I'll get to it in a minute.
Okay.
Richard believes that he was a victim of character assassination, and he still gets really fired up when people say that it was a hoax. He says he's lost lots of opportunities. He's had lots of people contact him about things that he'd invented and stuff like that, and it'd start going through, but as soon as they realised who he was, all of his deals would just fall through. And Mayumi Heaney said that she confessed out of fear. She thought she was going to be deported and that she wouldn't see her husband or her kids anymore. So she was just scared. And then in the end, Richard just had to take a plea deal because if not, they were facing all these fines that they'd never be able to pay off.
Yeah.
So the name Bloom Boy has stuck with Falcon Heaney ever since, but the long-haired teen who is now into heavy metal and has his own heavy metal band with his brothers Rio and Bradford.
Called Up, Up and Away.
Yeah. It's leaned into his nickname, and they titled their first original song Balloon Boy No Hoax. And the video for it features Falcon Heaney flying around on a flying saucer.
Can I Google that and find it on YouTube?
Oh, I think you must. That'd be so fun. The 3 boys work with their dad to fix up houses, and they do have big plans for a career in music. But they want to do that. They want to move away first and kind of get away from their family's infamous floating past. And that's it for my story this week. That's the Bloom Boy hoax, or not. Yes, no?
Oh, I think Oh.
I think it was a hoax, and I think they're trying to get out of it by saying they got pressured into it. I think they're assholes and they got caught out.
Imagine, though, if you thought that your child was in a giant air balloon.
Awful, terrifying.
I think they could have had, like, an initial, oh, shit, but then they just found him.
Right, anyway, on that note, thanks, guys. Like and subscribe.
God, who do we think we are?
Follow us on all our social media.
Please.
Listen again. Tell your friends.
Listen again?
I don't know what I'm doing. I feel very tired all of a sudden.
Leave us nice reviews, please.
Yeah, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts. That's where we want the ratings and the reviews, especially the UK, to get that rating up. 4.6. What? We deserve more than that. Although, considering Tasha's outro tonight, maybe we don't. I don't know.
Do you want me to try again?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Let's just let him go.
Bye.
Stay safe, guys.
Don't kill people or hoax or anything like that. Don't send your child up in a balloon.
Don't.
Made of foil.
And duct
Don't
tape.
do that.
And cardboard.
And keep it weird. I feel like we definitely kept it weird tonight.
We are
weird.
weird.
We're very high on the weirdo
very
meter.
odd.
Weird.
I'd also love to know what everybody thinks happened on that mountain. What happened to the Dyatlov Pass expedition? Let me know your theories.
Yes.
And let us know if Becky's story was a hoax or did they really think that little boy was in a balloon?
Interact with us. That's what we want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interaction.
All right,
Conversation.
Bye.
All right then.
Till next
Bye.
time.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Boy.
Bye.
Boy, boy. See you after the show for a sexy party.
Oh, yeah. Did you know harmonicas come in a set of 12?
Did they? What harmonica sizes?
Have I not told you this fact before?
What do you mean? Is it you buy a set of 12
So, you know, like that random harmonica you've got at home somewhere in a drawer?
Yep, I know
That
exactly
belongs
where
to
it
a
is.
set of 12. That belongs to a set of 12 harmonicas. So, harmonicas all make a different pitch.
Oh, so it has 12 brothers out there.
And a harmonica player, a harmonicist, if you will, has sets of 12.
If you please.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I'm obviously not a harmonicist because I did not know this.
I didn't know that either. Thank you for that random fact.
What way to end the show, guys?
Yeah. My story this year, I keep doing that. This week.
Every time.
Every single week. Every single week. Or bi-weekly.
Last episode, I deleted so much of you going, last year. I was like,
My brain doesn't work. You know when you were struggling to read those Russian names?
yeah.
That's how I get sometimes, just reading normal things. I completely stutter and I'm like that. And I can be like that. And then the words just not coming out.
Yeah, it's funny that we chose podcasting, really, isn't it, as a little hobby?
When we're so linguistically challenged.
By the...
Your face.
Sverdlovsk by the Sverdlovsk Committee of Physical Culture and Sport. Floss out the flosser.
I'm going to mention it the whole way through, so you have to keep it in.
Don't be a bitch, don't.
Second time I got called a bitch today.
Oh, who else called you a bitch?
I'm not telling you now.
Fucking bitch.
Do it again.
Yeah, bitch.
Right, anyway, come on, let's move on, because my mum listens to this.
I don't mean it, Verity. Don't come after
She
me.
called me a bitch, Mum. So did somebody else.
Who else did?
Oh, I'll tell you later.
Okay. Oh, okay. That's going to be a clip on Facebook. Anyway.